Hello, everybody. Welcome on another podcast. Today, we're talking about something different and interesting. Normally, we cover one app in detail. Today, we're covering an entire category. We're doing the journaling category. My name is Darius, and I'm sitting here with my co-host.
Hey guys, I'm Moyo. I'm super into apps. I'm excited to have this discussion.
Amazing. And before we dive in, also let you guys know, Moyo and we've met inside my private community and course, school.com/app success. That's where we actually connected. And this is where I've shared all of my insights about how to build, grow, and scale apps. And we just talked about before the call about the last app, which ended up doing $50,000,
Crazy.
48,000 to be precise, in the first 4 weeks after launch. No ads, no marketing. This is all profit. And so if you want to check out that case study, it's published inside the private community, school.com/app success. All right. Without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and we can dive in. I'm very excited because, I have history with journaling and journaling apps. And this is where actually my entire app story really started. So to kick us off, I wanted to share Reflectly and Daylio, which is kind of the story of how I came to be the app guy on the internet as well. And so I started building apps in college. I did this was many years ago, but we built not the first, but we attempted to build an AI language learning app because I was
Mm.
studying in Denmark and I was struggling to learn language. And this was like way before LLMs, way before AI was a thing.
What year was this?
So I have actually opened my LinkedIn. Let me, so I can remember all of this. So I graduated in 2014. And so this was like 2012, 2013 when we were working on this. Actually, 2014. I see it now. I have it on LinkedIn. Yeah, so August 2014 it started. So I started an AI company in 2014. Um, as you can imagine, this is like way before AI was a thing. And this is my first time doing tech of any sorts. So before that, I created a nonprofit organization in the university about construction, like sustainable construction projects. So I went from doing construction to and I saw this tech and I was like, man, this tech thing is moving really fast, big scale. Like, let me get in this thing. And so I was like, first thing I can do, first thing off the top was like language learning. I don't know how even I know what AI was at the time, but I was like, okay, I'm going to go do this thing.
Wow.
We spent 6 months building our MVP as a website, and I made every mistake of every rookie possible. It was terrible. And then after the first 6 months, launched the MVP and crickets. Nobody cares. So then we built an app, took us like another year. And long story short, ended up spending 3 years on this company. We never really got the product to work properly after 3 years of work. Went to San Francisco, did the whole join incubator in Silicon Valley, raise money, did the proper tech stuff. Um, Never really worked out. And then I worked on a bunch of other projects, some other companies. And then I was browsing the App Store and I saw this app called Reflectly. It was called World's First Intelligent Journal. So I downloaded the app and I play around and it was beautiful and I loved it. And it was like a whole new standard for apps. And I thought it was obvious to me. It was like a Silicon Valley company, somebody really on top of their game. And at the time I lived in Copenhagen in Denmark. And so I found a contact, support contact, email. I shoot them an email. I was like, I love the app, guys. Here's a few things that I think you could improve and do better. Just because I've had some experience. I was no expert. This was way before my YouTube and my courses and everything. And I just thought I'll help them out because I love the app. And then and I put my phone number, my Danish phone number in the signature. I wasn't asking for a job or anything. And 1 hour later, the CEO calls me. Turns out it was three Danish guys. Their office was just like few metro stops from my apartment in Copenhagen. We were on the phone for like a couple of hours. And by the end of it, he offered me the job to come on as the first employee. And the head of growth was the title at the time. So I
What are
joined
the
Reflectly.
chances?
And this was just 6 months after launch. They already had 500,000 installs,
Mm.
organic, but no paywall and so no revenue. And I joined 6 months later. I joined. not because of me, but because of the timing aligned, they put in a paywall like 2 weeks after I joined. And then, of course, the revenue skyrocketed as soon as I joined. And so I always show that in presentations, be like, see, I joined and the company went berserk. And then, yeah, basically, I stayed for 3 years, became chief marketing officer. We got 20 million users during those 3 years. We acquired 12 other companies in that process. So we started to buy up other companies and just flipping apps. And yeah, it became this whole thing. And then I, yeah, sold my bit, put out the golden parachute, escaped out of there, and had a very good exit. And so that was really the start of my kind of app journey. This was the first big success and financial success of my life. And this is when I started YouTube, started my first course. I remember when I going on Udemy and wanting to learn about app marketing, and I found one course, and it was so bad, like the advice was terrible, and I was like I have to do public service. So I literally went to the office over one weekend, recorded the entire course in
Yeah.
2 days, edited it, published it, and and actually that course ended up making about 100K to this day, and it's still like on Udemy. So that was my introduction to the App Store and my Reflected journey. So I'm very excited to dive deeper into the category.
Yeah. So the that's a great story, by the way. Like, what are the chances that there would be, basically down the street from you in the same country, the same city, and then they would offer you a job? That's like a movie. Um, but so this category of journals, I think, is a pretty interesting one, right? I, I have a journal now, and one of the things that stood out to me is, I guess, the stickiness of it. The way that people tend to start using them and pretty much never stop, and it kind of leads to a high revenue per download or per user number. I'm curious as to given that you were in it for such a long time, what are your thoughts about the category, or what are some of your biggest learnings?
Yeah, I think, like we really built the journaling category at the time. Like journaling wasn't a thing on the App Store before. There was Day One was like the only other app that I remember from that
Yep,
time. They were like the OGs, and they're still the OGs to this day.
yep, yep.
It's like a much bigger thing. But we like, yeah, built, and now like, I mean, half the journals like clearly copying, reflecting design and the way they're doing, and like the introduction of AI also before AI was a thing. Like this was when I joined Reflectly, and when we did all of this, it was between 2019 and 2022. So again, before like ChatGPT was really, a thing. I remember seeing like GPT 2.5 before ChatGPT being released
Right,
after I exited out of Reflectly. So I agree that, well, now it is like there's so many apps and so many companies, and it's a pretty saturated category. So it's hard to make it to work. You need a really good distribution strategy to get it to work. But once you get it to work, it is amazing because it has that stickiness. Because if you can get people to use it and create the habit, then I mean they put in their life stories,
right,
like, or their life memories. They upload pictures and they have things that they don't have anywhere else. And so the chances of retaining that user and the LTV and the annual renewal rates are fantastic. And we there's not a lot of categories in the app space where people use an app for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and it's not uncommon to have those users.
right, right. No, that's so true. I guess another question I had is that, or you know what? I think it'd be really interesting, or at least it was interesting for me to just see how you guys did the distribution for Reflectly. I think we might have alluded to it on an earlier episode, but there was that use of micro influencers, and then you reached out to all the micro influencers, didn't know which ones were going to perform, and then used the best ones to create ads, or created ads off of all of. Can you kind of talk about that for our listening audience?
Yeah, yeah. So this is, Yeah, this is like way early days of using influencer marketing now. All the young guys are taking it to the next level. But I remember, like for me, Gary Vee was the inspiration, and really he talked about, influencers way back in 2015, and we're listening. I was listening to a lot of Gary Vee, and he talked about the power of influencers and micro influencers specifically. And so yeah, our strategy, like our growth, was entirely powered by the strategy. And also one thing to add, like we ran an incredibly lean company, considering that we would be getting at hyper growth scale, we're getting 10,000 installs a day. We had only 4 people in the company. Like it was myself doing all the marketing, then the CEO doing the business stuff, and then we had one front end developer and one back end developer. And the front end developer was also doing the design. So 4 people running this entire operation. Later on, we scaled and it became very big. And by then I left. But the early stages were super lean. And so we ran this pretty elaborate marketing growth strategy. And I single handedly ran all of the campaigns myself. And so what we would do is we would reach out to micro influencers, usually on Instagram. That was the easiest way to do it. And actually, I had 2 part-time employees who just do the DMing all day, every day, like 4 hours a day for both of them, and find micro influencers. And by micro influencer, I meant anybody that has like north of 1,000 followers, but usually less than 20K. I would ask them to record 3 videos of them using the app, and at that time, I didn't care about their distribution. So I said, if you want to post it on your account, you can, but you don't have to. Like them posting it at the time didn't give us, and we tried this with a lot of
Right.
different, we tried paying for big influencers, for smaller ones, micro, like that got us almost nothing. Where we got all the distribution was taking those videos and then running them as ads. And this was basically the influencers were basically a creative factory. And at that time, we could scale that. I would run 100 different videos a day on Facebook ads, and that's basically what we scaled. And they would give me. So I would ask them to record 3 videos. These 3 videos would then go to a video editor, and the editor would like chop up, different endings, different beginnings, different splash screens. He would give me 15 different videos, and all of this was done on autopilot. So we got students DMing these influencers, creating the contract, negotiating. We would pay about, if I remember correctly, about $50 for 3 videos for somebody less than 20K. And actually, I didn't care about their followers. So this is the price, take it or leave it. I don't care if you have
Right.
100,000
Right.
followers. And so the student would negotiate, get the videos, send them to the editor. They would create 15 videos, and then only then they would drop it to a folder where I would get them, and then I would run it as Facebook ads, as Google ads, Snapchat ads, as all of that. Facebook was the most effective. And so
Right.
the engine was working so well that I would be running 100 videos a day. And then we would I would start them in the morning. By noon, I would see that 90 of them are not performing very well. So turn them off. And then those 10 would run the rest of the day. And I would see like, okay, 1 or 2 or 3 by the end of the day are the top performers. So those I keep, I push a bigger budget. And this was like the engine. And we just kept running and running and running with this. This was the entire strategy, and it works incredibly well. And again, I didn't need like a huge staff of marketing, and we tested, I would hire an agency to design beautiful ads and cool videos, or I would hire freelancers to make all kinds of videos and ads. Nothing outperformed creators, because they had so
Yeah.
much creativity, and I specifically wouldn't tell them what to do. I said, here's the app, record a video, and I like wouldn't give them a script. And it was always the videos that were the worst looking, in my opinion, as like the marketing guy who's supposed to have some brand image. It was always like the shitty videos with like the baby crying in the background and like a weird
Right.
sepia filter in the video or something. That would always get the most views. There was always the ones that perform best. So that's the biggest lesson I learned, is that you can't have any creative judgment at all. Like you got to run everything. It's about quantity, and then the market will decide what works best. None of the fancy quality production ever got us any distribution.
Yeah. You know, the more that I just hear about this topic and kind of experience it myself, the more I agree with what you just said, in terms of it just being hard to know or impossible to know what's going to perform. Like there was one of my video ads where it would outperform everything else. But what was going on is that people in the comments were making fun of the woman in the ad's hairstyle, right? But it just ended up still leading to like conversions. I guess that kind of like probably made the video go viral because which I, I I didn't love the most because I'm like, man, this is kind of negative. But then at the same time, it's just really working. Um,
Yeah,
and then
controversy works, man.
yeah, I just didn't feel good about it for the person who was in the video. It's actually it's a real person. So I also heard about I think for the app Resemi. So the one of the co-founders of that was talking about how they had a friend that looked like Justin Bieber who just happened to be in the apartment while they were recording the video. I don't even think they were main speaker in it, but then people would just comment about that, and that made the video go crazy. In another one, there was some fudge or something on like a fudge stain or fudge on somebody's fingernail, and people were like, you know, is that shit or something like that? And so the video went crazy and it outperformed. And then just other times, you can't even pinpoint what it is that's setting it. You know, you have your idea, you see the results, and then you look back at it and say, "Oh, I think it must be because of this." And so I'm going to use that as a hypothesis and try to create more stuff. But that may or may not end up producing a similar or better result. So it's like who knows. But I did have a follow up question to get deeper into that. So when you guys were running 100 videos a day, like what kind of budget did you need to support that? And did all of the videos actually get spent, or did Facebook just put it to a couple?
Yeah, so we did get spend, and I mean we were spending good amount of money, and I can't talk about I still
Oh, okay,
yeah
got it,
because
got it,
of
got it,
the
got it.
like non-compete and
And
all the
NDAs, all that stuff. Yeah,
yeah NDAs. But I will say that this was, every quarter I have seen the prices of advertising go up, and so
for
this
sure.
was like, for me, that was the golden era. Now it'd be so much more expensive, and it was not unusual to have like way, and not for, I'm not talking about Reflectly, I'm talking about the whole category, everybody
Yeah,
in the app store. It was not unusual to have 50 cents cost per install,
right,
75-cent cost per install, 90-cent, sub $1 cost per install. Um, and then you're making, more money per install than that. You're making a lot of times, two, three, even if you do $1 per install, but it costs you 50 cents, then like if you're printing cash, you got a money making
right,
machine. Um, this is something that also I've spoken before, that the reason I believe that the reason why Calm became a $1 billion company is because, yeah, the product is great and all of that is great, but their explosive growth came from, they found the sleep stories was the main feature. So actually it wasn't meditation. The sleep stories was like the killer feature everybody wanted. Everybody wanted Matthew McConaughey talking sweetly to your ear as you fall asleep. That was the main feature. And at the same time, when they got the feature, Instagram story ads just became available format. This tells you how old this is, that
right,
the Instagram story ads were not a format available before. They became a new format. Whenever you have a new format for advertising, it's cheaper because it has less competition. It, of course, becomes saturated pretty quickly, but it took several months for the ad format to be introduced, and it was so cheap. So we were, of course, pushing all the money in there, and Calm became a $1 billion company at that time because they paired this amazing feature that had really good like click-through rates with Instagram story ads, and they just pumped all the cash. And
right,
I was watching them do it, so I was doing the same thing, and it worked incredibly well. They just happened to start a couple years before Reflectly, so they launched like, I don't know, 5 years, 3 years before Reflectly. I do believe that if the roles were reversed and like Reflectly would have been 5 years earlier or 3 years earlier, it would be much closer to a $1 billion company as opposed to now it's basically
right,
nothing. It has like, and this is the sad story of Reflectly. Like it hit this peak and it was amazing, and so since I've left, I don't know what's happening inside the company. And even if I would know the details, I can't share them.
For
But
sure.
basically, what we can see from the public numbers is that the app essentially makes no money. And this is like
Yeah.
the great, I think, detective story, maybe the story for this podcast as well, is that, yeah, we were doing, yeah, like I said, we're doing, 10,000 installs a day plus. And now essentially the data on the App Store tells us that the app makes like no revenue. I mean, it's yeah, these numbers are not represented in AppTweak. But even when we look at Sensor Tower, it says anywhere between 0 to 5,000, and it could be zero. And that's like
Yeah.
the great tragedy for me.
I think that one was a big mystery for me as well because it's like you don't see that often. Usually once an app reaches some type of escape velocity, and especially if it stayed there for months and years, you don't see it going. You might see it decline, but you're not seeing them go back to almost zero. So
Yeah.
it's like, you know,
And especially in
I saw this one before. This is something that I looked at before you even started the App Success School. I just saw it and I was kind of flabbergasted because I used to look at it as kind of the gold standard of this category and this kind of app, and I was just so surprised. I was like, "Are these numbers correct?" And I think I went back and looked at it the next month, and then I said, "Okay, it must be." So I started to think, okay, maybe it's just that they decided we're not going to focus on this one, and we're going to focus on the ones we acquired. But I still don't quite get it.
Yeah, it's a mystery to me as well. And like you said, if you already like we ranked number one for the keyword journal and journaling and diary for all, like we're number one for all
Right.
of them. And if you are number one and the category stays at such a high search volume, like the keyword journal
Yeah.
is still super high, and you do some like basic maintenance, you will generally retain that slot. Or even if you're not in number one, you'll still be in top 10.
Top
And
three.
exactly, with a
It's
little bit of
very
work.
difficult to dislodge a number one app for a keyword. It's like you
That's been
really
there for
have
years
to,
and years, like
yeah,
since 2019.
and it's not like somebody came along and did that to them. So, um,
I
because
mean,
the app that we're seeing Daylio, and they were already there, and I don't think that they really changed their strategy. It doesn't seem that way. And then even if they did, you would expect that Reflectly would then swap to number two and number like we kind of talked about. So
yeah.
I don't know. It's a mystery for me.
So we will, I mean, a lot of things happened since then, and we're going to talk about that during the
Sure.
rest of this episode and later here today as well. For example, Apple launched their own journal, and so now that is the number one for that keyword, and there's a lot of other competitors. So we'll go through a lot of them. But I brought up Daylio specifically for that reason, exactly because so Daylio launched shortly after Reflectly, and they had a brilliant strategy, and I really loved it. And for me, what's especially interesting is that Deio is from Slovakia. This was the launch country, and the founders were two guys from Slovakia. I don't know how big the team is now, but back then it was just two dudes in Slovakia. I am from Slovakia, and so I thought this was like a beautiful little work. And they obviously got inspired by Reflectly. If you look at their icon, look at the Reflectly icon, like clearly that's what they were doing. But their strategy was brilliant as an indie dev or as not like a big company because we're spending all this money on marketing, all the ads. Like we raised the entire category of journaling on the App Store. We're the flagship. They did zero marketing, zero ads, but because they got so heavily inspired by Reflected, let's say kindly, and built a product that was decent. It wasn't amazing. It was nowhere nearly as beautiful as Reflectly. It was good enough, but they positioned themselves well and they ranked number two for every single keyword. Were number one. So journal, journaling, diary, all of these keywords, long tail, they were number two. And because they were number two, they got all these like secondhand revenue. And for me, it was very frustrating because as I was running Reflectly marketing and like spending all this money, and they were riding the wave with us,
Right.
that like I think in hindsight, it's a beautiful strategy to be
Yeah,
if you're just like a solo dev. And when we look at them, they're doing 100K a month from the iOS app. So let's say they probably do 30, 40K from the Android app as well. So 150 in total. And if they stayed lean and it's just two dudes somewhere in a basement in Slovakia doing 150K a
phenomenal,
month, the app
phenomenal.
hasn't really gone through any significant changes or updates. I've looked at the app. It's pretty much the same as it was, 5 years ago. So it's an incredible business. We tried acquiring them. So early on, when we saw they ranked number two, we had a bunch of calls with them. And I tried to like be the Slovakian guy with them, so they could feel like there's some kind of a
They said
connection.
cool.
Yeah, and we tried acquiring them. They said no. We tried a few months later again, increase the price. They still said no. That would have been an amazing acquisition. We should have offered much more money. We were
Yeah,
offering like the usual what we normally would did. Um, but in hindsight, that would have been an amazing acquisition because it's if it does 150K a month, so you got what 1.5 a year, so that's valued at but for like easily 4.5 to 6 million in terms of valuation, and it's produced this money since 2019 every month.
yeah, yeah,
It's amazing. At the time, actually, they were doing about 50K a month. Now they're doing 100K a month. So they've grown as opposed
yep.
to Reflectly, which has shrunk down to nothing. And this might remain a mystery.
Yeah, for sure. As as you were talking, I think that an underrated part of what they did is that even though they were surfing, well, probably surfing, I guess we'd have to speak to them to know, but surfing that Reflectly wave, they did enough to differentiate their products. So they weren't trying to call it like Reflectly Live Journal or something like, something that would get them banned, right? Um, but still earning that number two slot. We've recently talked about the T app that in our first episode. I've seen there's an app that is kind of surfing on their wave. It's called Honest Tea. And they've got almost all of the number two positions for all the important keywords, but I wonder, I wonder if they're teetering too close to the line. And it's always going to be debatable, but if you look at what Daylio did in that case, there's really not much that you guys would have been able to say. I say you guys because you were part of it at that time, but
Yeah.
other than okay, that character is too close, change the character, and they could have done that, and I don't think that that's really going to have affected where their app was, right? So
Yeah.
I don't even know if that's something intentional or something that they thought about, but I think that that is something that if one is trying to surf the wave, you definitely should think about.
Yeah, I think of I love racing and Formula One, and I like to use the F1 analogy where I think the App Store is like the FIA, the controlling body of F1, where they make the rules every season. They're trying to make the sport safer and slower and more interesting because the cars are already too fast. And every year, all the teams go out there and they all try to play by the rule, but see how they can kind of break the rule without getting caught. And they're all competing to never get banned or caught, but find a way around the rules to become the number one.
Yeah,
And yeah, these are very thin lines. And honestly, like the best players that I know in the App Store, I call them pirates because they know just how to bend the rules enough to get the advantage, but never too much to get banned by Apple.
yeah, and uh, I would say that that's actually really important for anybody who wants to be in this game because I think you always want Apple to think of you as a good actor. They are in control, or Google if you play over there. I'm not as into that, but the fact is it's their store. So I've seen there are a lot of people I've spoken to who take an attitude where they're saying, "Oh, Apple's doing this and it doesn't make sense," and they try to like fight them at every turn. And the fact is, it's just not going to work. You know,
Yeah.
whether you're right or wrong, it's like it doesn't really matter. So if you see that they're pushing back on something, it's best to just figure out how to, what is it that they want to get me to do, and how do I just acquiesce and move on, live another day, and fight a battle that makes sense because like you're just not going to win.
Yeah, I've seen cases as well. I told you I had a friend who was using the trending
Oh,
keyword methods that I teach in the school, that I use myself, and he started doing incredibly well. He was on track to do 150K a month in profit, excuse me, but he was fighting Apple way too much. He kept getting rejections. He kept pushing this copycat, using the brand names, using the titles, like just being, yeah, going over the edge clearly. And Apple kept giving him warnings and shutting him down and rejecting the app. And he kept pushing and pushing and pushing. Then one day he woke up and his App Store account got banned. And when
that's
Apple shuts
heartbreaking,
you down
man.
like that, you never get your money paid out. So the 150K that was coming to his account never materialized. That only happens if you really like clearly break the rules repeatedly. Apple tends to really, if you play by the book and you don't like obviously copy other apps, they tend to give you a warning if anything is a bit off.
Yeah, and there's no way to be in the game and not get rejected. So I don't want anybody to think that I'm saying that. Like you'll definitely get rejected. You'll definitely have to tweak things. But I think the key is like when they're trying to tell you something, then even if it's annoying and it's hard to hear, you have to just take a step back, think about what is it that they want from me, and then try to figure out how to comply and just move forward.
Yeah, yeah. And look, most of our releases get a rejection. Like new
Yeah,
apps or updates, first time we always get a rejection. But then we address what they say, we fix it, and then we move forward.
right, right,
It's very
right.
subjective as well. They're very nitpicky.
For
Sometimes
sure.
they let you do one wall paywall, and another time they will reject the paywall. And so you
Yeah.
gotta like it could be annoying, but like look, Apple has created this unbelievably amazing ecosystem where we can just make apps and people make millions of dollars. And
Right, right,
so
right.
I'm
So
grateful that we had this opportunity because it wasn't here just
it
a
can
couple of years
be
ago.
worth it to try to figure out how to make the system work for you. And I,
Yeah,
I guess
because system works.
the last thing that I'll say on it is like um I've also heard people take the approach of like, you get a rejection, then you'll say, "Oh wait, but I see this app doing it, and I see that app doing it, and I even see Apple's app doing it," and try to use that with the reviewer. And I'm here to tell you that it's just not going to work. That they don't
No.
care. It's going to be inconsistent. So just don't waste your time because yeah, it can only hold you back and just slow you down from getting where you're going.
Yeah, that's the name of the game. I agree. So I think for the next part, it would be cool to here I have open app tweak. So for those of you guys listening on podcast, you can see the video actually both on Spotify and on YouTube. But I thought it'd be fun to go through a couple of the apps that are ranking for the keyword journal on the App Store today. We're looking at the US App Store. We don't talk about the Play Store because it generally doesn't generate as much revenue, nowhere nearly as the App Store. So that's if you want to make money, that's usually the better place to be. And we're looking at the US because that's just the best market. That being said, I know plenty of people that make money with Play Store and non US markets all over the world. It's just what we focus on. So diving in, right off the bat, yeah, the first app is the Journal app by Apple. And I don't think we have to spend much time here. They launched it originally, it was hated by everybody. Now they get actually pretty good reviews. The app itself, I think it sucks, but that's Apple's number one. And yeah, that just happens. Sometimes they launch an app in your category and there's nothing you can do. So that's not interesting for our business. But I think, yeah, the next one is Day One. They are the OGs in the space. And I think I have them here. Yeah,
I
so
guess
right
my,
now,
my 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 only comment on the Apple thing is that So they came in there, they're number one, but it doesn't stop other people from still being successful. Because you'll hear that a lot. You'll be like, "Oh, what if Apple enters your cat, or what if Google enters your category?" Um, it doesn't have to mean the end. So that's all.
Exactly, I agree 100%. And maybe like a good way I'm gonna load up the revenue for day one so you can see the journey. So I remember that the journal was launched after I left Reflectly, so this was like post 2022. I don't remember the exact time, but sometime around 2022. If you look at the revenue of day one, so this is going from 2018 when they were
Yep.
doing 50K a month to now when they're doing 230 to 300K a month in revenue. And so actually around the time of 2022 when the journal app by Apple was launched, the revenue actually went up
Yeah.
and there's no significant drop. And these guys have been number one or in top three keyword
Yeah.
rank in the
Yeah.
keyword journal.
So I think sometimes what it does, which is counterintuitive, it will just bring more awareness to the category and kind of grow the pie. Because that also happened. There was talk that Apple releasing their AI features was going to end all these AI apps, and a lot of them just grew because people would search for whatever AI feature they're looking for, and then find some other app and download it and pay. So, yeah, but we don't have to spend too much time there.
Yeah, exactly. I also like people said, oh, like the journal category is dead now because Apple takes all the users. No, it's not how it works. And you can clearly see that around 2021, 2022, and 23, the revenue still kept going up. In 2024, they made $2.92 million. And in 2025, we'll see how it turns out. But so far, 2.17. So they might be able to hit the 3 million target. And that's again $3 million a year. That the app is easily valued at north of $10 million then,
Yeah.
depending on their cost structure. So these guys have been here forever. I think the product has also been more or less unchanged, or very least very small updates. Like this is, I remember the screenshots looking like this during the Reflectly times. The
Mhm.
journal app from Apple actually looks quite similar for some of these parts. But it's a pretty straightforward thing, and they've been around for forever. They also have a website, and so they drive traffic to the website, and it's kind of a bigger company. But I think this is a cool one. When we go, the next one is Diary with Password. This one is very popular. And I wanted to see if I have it loaded here. Yeah. So Diary with Password gets 10,000 downloads a month, and they're not monetizing at all. And well, I was a little bit suspicious because I saw this and I was like, okay, it's a Chinese company that has a journaling app where people write their biggest fears and dreams in the most intimate data. And I don't
Right,
want
right, right.
to, uh, this is not based on any evidence,
Do they have
but
any advertising or anything like that?
I have not seen ads for these guys. They've also been around for a very long time. Super, super simple app. I think they just got like good keyword rank and they've kind of stayed up there simple. But they're not monetizing, which they easily could. Again, when I see this, it hurts me because you could generate so much revenue. And it's not
Yeah,
huge, like 10,000 installs is not massive. So you could probably do like 10K a month from this, but it's 10K more than zero.
yeah. Well,
This
I've
is an
seen
outlier though. Most of the apps are monetizing.
I've seen some apps in this category generate up to $10 per download. So, I mean,
Oh,
if you
that's
if you believe the
massive.
revenue estimates, so that could actually be quite a bit more. But
Yeah. And as always, we're using app tweak, so this isn't a revenue estimate. We don't know for sure, but we find that usually it is directionally correct, more or less. And I am cross-referencing with Sensor Tower as well on some of these, some of the data I couldn't find in app tweak. So we can go to the next one, maybe. What do I have here is, one second every day. So I thought this was an interesting twist. It's a video diary. Um, they didn't pitch themselves as a video diary kind of back in the day. Like 1 second a day has been around forever as well. And it's not really originally wasn't a journaling diary product, but I see more and more apps in like video only or audio only. And I think there's an interesting category like Reflectly was the original kind of journal. And I think there are three new categories that will be interesting on top of journaling. So I think there is AI journals, which we'll cover some, Rosebud being my favorite. There
Yep.
is audio journaling and there's video journaling. So these are like top three, and nobody's like a clear winner yet. So I think that'll be interesting to see. Right now, 1 second every day is making 160K a month is the estimate. They've been around for a very long time. They used to go viral back in the day because then people would take their whole year 1 second every day and publish the videos on Instagram.
Yeah. My suspicion here is that they had an app, that clearly had a track record and a history, and they were looking for, hey, what is a category we can attach ourselves to help ASO. So I think that that's probably how it became a journaling app or a diary app. Oh, and I think that spike must be the new year, right? You see, like
Yeah,
they get
January
a
8th,
huge.
100K,
Everybody's going to
January
change their
8th.
life every. I'm going to start a journaling habit.
Yeah, they make 100. Yeah, and this is, of course, you see this in a journaling category. You see it in fitness and some of these
Yep.
habit trackers. Is that I've seen companies, they'll do 40% of the entire annual revenue come in the first 2 weeks of January.
Right. Right.
And that's
Right.
quite normal. But yeah, they're doing
That makes sense. It, it's
100K
it's cool
in
to see
one
how
day.
those spikes grew too.
Yeah. And so they're, yeah, I mean, 2023 was the best year, 2.56 million. But yeah, still doing pretty good. And this year will also be pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I agree. They probably just found a category they could attach for ASO sake and then drive that traffic. Because originally it was just like a viral video app.
Yep. Yep.
I think Daily Bean is kind of a newer one, and I think that's an interesting one that I like. And I did look it up here as well. Um, there's a bunch of these smaller apps. They're not huge. Daily Bean is doing 40K in revenue, but these are like very, very super small, super simple apps. I mean, Daily Bean, as you can see, like the app is just like you use an emoji to mark how you feel that day, and that's the
Yeah.
entire product. All these are so simple,
Right. Right.
and
Right.
yeah, 40K a month, 50K installs.
This one, it kind of gives me that. It makes me think of that. What's that book? 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing thing, where you just want to. It's not to be. The goal isn't to be better. It's to be different. They're just. It's like, hey, all these other journals have all these features, and we're just gonna give you a bean for every
Yeah.
day. Yeah.
And I think the one takeaway I also saw from Reflectly is that most of the audience, or like the core group, is teenage girls and young women. That is the
Right.
core group. Of course, there's much bigger, but that is, except for day one. Day one has more like older and more male leaning audience. But all the other ones are like, yeah, teenage girls, young women. And so the design also tends to be like more cute and more, yeah, this like cute design style, I would call it. And so you
Sure.
see like a little daily bean or a little reflectly, a little tiny robot that's kind of cute. One that's leaning, maybe the only one that I know that's leaning heavily towards men on the target group is Stoic.
Stoic. I know you're gonna say
Yeah.
that.
So Stoic does also 40K a month, but it's the only one that I know that's like well, it's Stoic. And this is, of course, women can be Stoic, but it tends to resonate more with a male audience.
Yeah. Yeah. Are they related to the Daily Stoic, Ryan Holiday, or is it just are they just
Good question. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think they're related.
not that he needs to own that word, but
No, yeah, they did become, they grew and they kind of launched in the era of like Tim Ferriss talking about Stoicism and Ryan
yeah,
Holiday, and when like Stoicism was the main religion of Silicon Valley, which it still might be. Um, that's when they launched, and
I
I
think
think
it's
like
ayahuasca now.
yeah, yeah, it's moved on to ayahuasca.
Right,
I haven't seen any ayahuasca apps yet, but it's also harder to
right,
make
right,
tech
right.
for. Um, but yeah, I think it's again super simple app. I like the design; it's nice.
Yep, yep. I,
They've been kind
I,
of steadily doing 40K a month for a very long time.
Got it, got it. I think, what you said about Tim Ferriss, that again speaks to like this overarching discussion that we've been having about how just latching onto a trend, it can be powerful, and you just see it over and over again. I guess this would be more of like a longer term trend, but it would have been something that was very in vogue at the time. So yeah, this is kind of always in the background.
Yeah, and it still resonates with people. Yeah, I agree 100%. Um, One of the new categories is Rosebud, or new categories is like AI journals. Even though Reflectly, our like our pitch, our subtitle was world's first intelligent journal. Uh, this was like before AI, and uh, let's say some AI was used, but we were not revolutionizing the journaling world with AI. But Rosebud is one of the first companies that actually uses proper AI, which I really liked, and you can really see it. So you write a journal entry, and you kind of have this reflection coming back to you, and it asks you, and it follows up, and I love that. Like I personally use ChatGPT for journaling, and it's amazing. I really love that format, and I've considered myself going back to the App Store just because AI actually makes journaling, super interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's a category. So I mentioned that I have a journal, and AI journal is actually the I guess the subsection that I'd like to attach myself to. I haven't gone all in on the keyword yet, just because I haven't built out all the features. But I kind of made the decision actually today that I'll just start building on the keyword first, and double down on the features as we go. So we'll see how that one goes.
Nice. Then super curious to hear next week on the pod. What is your progress in the AI
Yeah,
journal
yeah, for
category?
sure, for sure. Oh, and look at this one. So, 90K revenue versus 10K download. So that's nine per download if we believe these numbers.
Yeah, that's very impressive. And I wonder if that is because of the pitch of like the added value of this is not just a journal where you could just use your notes app or whatever, but you're getting like kind of, feedback. So yeah, this is very impressive to do
I,
$9 per install.
Something it just automatically makes me wonder, and maybe I'm a greedy capitalist, but if you're making that much per download, why aren't you doing everything you can to just get more downloads? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. We could check real quick. Actually, I don't know if they are running ads. So I'm just gonna load up the Facebook ads library.
I feel like I've
Uh,
seen their ads, and it seemed like they were not very optimized. Yeah, I don't know.
yeah, it's possibly they could, but again, it's a very competitive category, and so something like search ads would be very expensive. That's tough. Let's see over here. We have the Facebook ads library, and yeah, started running. These started on 13th of September. So they have a good number of active campaigns, not huge volume, but they do have some. And yeah, as you can see, these are some of the experiment. We don't know how much money they're spending, but yeah, so they're using that kind of micro influencers format. Looks like a lot of this is about parenting. Yeah, so hard to tell how well it's performing, but they're spending some budget on marketing.
Right, right. They have more video ads than when I had originally looked, so I guess they are putting some more effort into it now.
Yeah, the last one active was launched on July 11th, so maybe they're ramping up their ads right now
Yeah,
over the
yeah,
summer.
for
And yeah,
sure.
over the summer, people spend less money on ads on their phones, so less revenue comes from the App Store usually. Some of these categories, people spend more time outside, so that's also normal. We can see like back to school, people spend more time on their screens. But yeah, I would agree. This would be a very interesting stat that they do $9 per install to dive into. Like that would make me think it's an interesting category.
Yeah.
Another one, which is not really a journal, but Fabulous, has been around in the App Store for a very long time. Estimated 90K revenue, very similar to Rosebud. And there was a time where Fabulous, so they also launched after Reflectly. I've had some brief conversations with some of the people from the company. I thought it was what they do is interesting back then. Um, they at some point spent a lot of money on ads that really pushed it, and they were doing like 1 million a month in revenue. But
Mm,
I suspect they were cannibalizing most of their profit because if they
right,
went down to 90K, that just means they probably turned off the ads and riding the
right,
organic
right.
wave, which is yeah, beautiful. Like I remember when we were at Reflectly, like the goal was to, let's build $1 billion company, do this huge thing, a lot of staff, a lot of employees, raise money, do all those things. And now I'm leaning much, much more towards like 1 or 2 people company, no staff, ideally, no capital
Yeah.
raised, just go lean in. I would rather take 90K a month in profit than 500K in revenue, but you have big team to manage, you spend money on ads and becomes pain in the ass. Maybe they're just getting old.
Yeah, that's I feel like that might be one that has also been purchased by a bigger company. But
Okay, I don't
I'm
know
not
about
sure
the
if that's
acquisition of
true.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're in
Yeah.
the category of daily habit tracker, not really journal,
Yeah.
but
Wait, can you check their App Store page? I just want to see.
yeah. So I brought them up because they were here. Another one I wanted to talk about is Finch, that is interesting as well in that similar thing. Let me just load it up here. They were.
Oh, snap. Darius, I'm actually gonna have to leave you to finish this one. I just realized my son's gonna get home in a couple minutes.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we have to drop off to take care of the kids, so we'll just round it off, and I'm going to finish off some of the last ones I wanted to cover. Next one is a 5 minute journal. I have consulted briefly for them, but based on the public data, you can see they're doing 40K a month. Most of this comes from the brand. The 5 minute journal, the physical journal, is probably the most popular journal in the world. Definitely one of the biggest brands in journaling, Intelligent Change, amazing company. And they have an app and that's doing 40K. I suspect that most of that is coming from the strength of the brand and writing the brand value that they have. So that's one I want to cover. And then we did cover Diary with Password, no revenue. Finch is an interesting one. So Finch is a self-care pet. They do rank for the keyword journal. So that's why I wanted to bring them up. Not a journaling app, but it's more of a self-care, yeah, as they describe it, a self-care pet. So that is super interesting. And they've been spending a lot of money on advertising. They're doing 1.46 million a month in revenue, but a lot of this will go to advertising. I see their ads all the time. We covered 1 second in video every day. And then the final one is how we feel. So I really like how we feel because this is a kind of a passion project created by the founder of Pinterest or one of the people behind Pinterest. And they're not monetizing and they're just building a kind of a journaling product. They do 31K installs. This to me is one of the most beautiful apps I've seen in the App Store. So they're clearly not doing this to make money. I mean, not that if you make money, you can have a nice design, but they have spent a lot of energy and effort to make an amazing, beautiful product. Some of the best ways I've seen to handle kind of mood tracking. And you can see their App Store reviews are 4.9, which is super, super high. We don't see that very often. And yeah, I think we covered most of it. So this is the journaling category. As you can see, there's a couple of new interesting players like AI journals, audio journals, video journals. And the category itself still makes a lot of money. And I think it's super interesting. So I hope you enjoy this pod. This is it. And we'll see you next week. Ciao, ciao.